Are there any comments that would like to be made by visitors at this point?
I passed out this document that each of you have. If you haven't gotten the word, last week the Assembly failed to pass the mini budget. As a result, the governor signed his executive order, which basically cut about $3 million more than we'd taken out in our budget for the town of Clinton. What I've done on the cover is calculated what that would mean, and it would be about 2.21 additional mills. So the cumulative tax increase or mill rate increase would be 18.3%. So it's pretty heavy what is coming our way, assuming all that actually occurs. Maybe you have some more information about it, Mr. Farmer, or maybe there's something we can do about it, but I think this is going to require some executive action of some kind. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. You have the entire thing there. I've bookmarked the main pages that relate to Clinton and highlighted Clinton's, what it's going to do to Clinton, but it's rather severe.
Thank you.
Then a new business, I just want to throw this out. I just want us to be aware of what's happening, and anybody can comment on Governor Malloy's State of Connecticut resource allocation plan. That's in effect until they pass the budget. Once they pass the budget, it's no longer in effect. But I just want us to just think about it. Be ready for the worst case scenario. It's nothing, just throwing it up there tonight. Because the worst case scenario was total state aid was supposed to be $6,651,587, and all that's in Malloy's proposed worst case scenario budget is $413,599. So we just got to think of where, if there is a gap, where it's going to come from. And there are three ways we can get it: unexpected revenue, which one piece of what Laura just said. Second one would be budget reductions, and the third one would be supplemental taxes. And I am against supplemental taxes because we already had a large mill increase. So I just wanted to run the board, and I want anybody else to throw out whatever they want to throw out right now. Anybody else want to mention anything?
I'd like to understand how we would do this.
That's what I'm asking us to think about it.
I've got an email to the attorney to make sure that we follow the procedures, saying, you know, these are options, what would we need to do to follow the charter to make sure we're doing it correct.
Because asking in the beginning of the year, I was told the only thing to do was to supplemental tax though, but we have apparently other avenues. We would take our budget and scour it.
Well, I think that's an option. I think that's an option. But I'm just saying, think about it right now. Because
it's $3 million.
the state's supposed to pass a budget on July 31st. It's supposed to be Tuesday, but that's not happening. It's going to be supposed to be July 31st now. And, you know, obviously the Republicans, Democrats, and the executive branch could compromise, and the cuts won't be as serious. That's what, you know, we're hoping for. But I just want to think, we just have to be prepared in case of this worst case scenario, that's all.
They have to probably vote down the budgets of each other, and then maybe, you know, they figure out how to get from there. There's been sitting talk about maybe bipartisan budget, but obviously because of the memberships, I think they'll have to do it. One question I have is it's interesting because part of the proposal that may pass, may not pass, is that there's a supplemental sales tax on meals and foods and things like that. I don't know if they're hotel stuff. I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but I think that if this does get passed, then you start to look at how do you look at what Madison is doing. You know, I think you've got to be concerned about not being competitive in Clinton to your surrounding towns, but it is something at that point you need to think of because they're cutting aid based on saying you're giving you the ability to do this. So we need to think about it. I'm not saying we have to come to any conclusion for or against, but I think it's another thing only you might want to, as we get closer to that, I think you think about it.
Well, we either need revenue or cuts.
Well, I mean, taking one-time revenue such as the, let's say we got the 800,000 in from FEMA, or we got 2.8 million from Mill Pond, and we got, you take that one time, we did that, last year with the 980-something thousand dollars, and then this year, we were in the hole that much. I think right now we're in crisis mode when they cut this amount of money out of our budget, or out of our, not our budget, out of our funding, out of our aid, and I think we need to try to figure out what we can do, what haircuts we can ask others to take, because the taxpayers have gotten a 10.2% increase in their taxes. And I think this would be basically a 6.9%, 3.3 million is 6.9% of debt service of all the operating and capital expenditures. And for you to be able to absorb $3.3 million, you'd have to ask all of your contractors, including public employees, or you'd have to talk about reductions in force, or reductions in hours. But to try to get 6.9% squeezed out of this budget, I think you have to do it in a way that everybody feels is fair. Because if you take it out of the police budget and you don't do it to the library, and you don't do it, I think it's something that you have to just do every place.
But we definitely have to have a plan B. This has to be a plan B.
Well, one thing is you have a town budget, that's what, 1.2 whatever percent what was. And, when you're looking, that's a very small increase. So when you're looking to have people think,
What's a small increase?
1.2 something percent increase is not a large increase.
In what? In salary, is that what you're talking about?
No, in town budget.
Oh, the town budget. Right.
So we can't control other than say to the Board of Education, cut this, okay? And then they're gonna have to find out how to cut it. So that's the difficulties we have here.
I'm not looking for any signal sign, I just want everybody to be aware of the worst case and to think about it, just be in the top of the money, that's all.
Right, the other thing is, they had proposed a 3-month continuing resolution in effect. That was what was voted, did not pass on June the 30th. And that's what triggered the governor to sign the...
He has to, Constitution.
But with that came, which I think you all got, because I sent it to you. And I've got, if you want to look at just those pages, I didn't bring the whole thing. But that is a significant number, and, wait, put it this way, if you were in any kind of a private enterprise, and suddenly you lost 12% of your revenue from one source, you would immediately say, well, we've got to make some adjustments, and you can't just necessarily raise your prices, for the adjustments. You're going to probably have some reductions in force, or you go to all your contractors, and you say, we just lost one. It's almost a force majeure, because you've got a crisis. And I don't know what the 3-month thing will be. We don't even have a number of what that would be, I don't think. At least, are you aware of one?
I've had business people just comment to me that we are now, the town of Clinton spends $1 million a week, 12,000 people, $1 million every week, and they're shocked by that.
And by the way, in our accounts, we have $6.8 million, we're talking about money market accounts like that. Okay.
Well, let me just add one other thing to this. They're talking at the Board of Selectmen this week about this $4.8 million, to go up to Rocky Ledge. Given all of these kinds of uncertainties, it seems to me like we ought to put a moratorium on things like that, at least for a while, and say, look, let's not, we have a virtual crisis on our hands and we don't know where it's going, and to add another $4.8 million to that at this time is just not gonna fly. And having them go ahead with it like nothing has happened, nothing has changed, it's business as usual.
A moratorium until we see the state budget, I agree with that.
I agree as
I
well.
would speak against moratoriums. I think what you do is take votes. And you take votes on those kinds of expenditures. There's some things you're going to want to and have to spend money on. There's going to be those things you need to do. But I don't disagree on what do you take out at this point with 4.8? Because I think we don't need a moratorium on that. What we need to do is get all the answers that we raised and that were raised and see how this whole thing's going to work. But, you know, I think just a blanket say moratorium is not responsible because we're here to vote. You may vote everything down that's proposed, but it's not a predetermined moratorium before you even know what the need is.
Okay, that's it, this is just to bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There is a stalemate in Hartford. There's no end in sight to this budget stalemate. And we are now $6 million reduced state funding, which is the equivalent of 6 hurricanes without any first responders, without any FEMA reimbursement. This is a man-made crisis, a man-made disaster. I brought it to your attention a month ago. The neglect to address it, I consider abject. The fact that we are here today talking about spending $5.1 million on top of a 10.2% tax increase, while we have a $3.3 million funding hole, and you haven't had one meeting to address this crisis that I'm aware of, this is really a very big problem, and it requires leadership. It can't wait for the next election. I've been around collecting signatures, and I can tell you that people in this town are angry, they're desperate, and they're hurting, and you are sitting here doing nothing about it. And I think you need to be aware that if they could, they would throw you all out. Because of the RTC renominating incumbents, that's impossible. I think the DTC got it right when they did not nominate any incumbents. But this should be an anti-incumbency year. And you have 5 months in which you can show some leadership. It's left in your term of office. And I implore you to do so. Not for politics, but for the good of this town.
All right, thank you. Okay. Carol?
I just want to remind the Board of Selectmen that next Monday night, the 21st, the Water Pollution Commission goes to the Board of Finance to move that bonding resolution forward.
Okay.
And the Water Pollution Commission would very much appreciate if the Selectmen would come.
Is that a reminder?
Yes, and support that resolution moving forward. Also, I know this is stupid to address this, but last week, Kirk, you kind of went on a rampage to the Board of Selectmen about what we were and were not addressing in regards to cuts from that may be forthcoming from the state. And I felt like we sat here looking like deer in the headlights. But I'd like to remind you that A, you were on the Board of Finance, and B, the pocketbook of the town, the checkbook, belongs to the Board of Finance. We cannot determine what the policy will be going forward when it is determined what the town is going to lose. The Board of Finance could easily be addressing those concerns right now. If you're talking about special meetings and a critical impasse, that's in the lap of the Board of Finance. You have the background, you have the knowledge, you have the data to determine where that should be addressed, where and how. That's not our job. That is your job. So for you to accuse us of not being on the ball in regards to addressing that concern, I think you don't have to look any farther than the mirror. Okay? I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
May I just add one thing?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, to that I would add that if you think this board is doing nothing, you are sadly mistaken.
Correct.
We spend a lot of time working with the legislature, with all of the organizations that stand behind us in our cause. A number of us have testified personally and in writing at the Capitol. We are talking to people almost every day to be at the pulse of what's going on with this great concern. Talking to other towns, doing everything we can to stay on top of it.
And that's the problem. You think you know what's going on, but you don't.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Okay, in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.